Coaches, welcome back. FCA Coaches Corner, episode number 4. If you missed the first 3, please go back and take a look at our YouTube page, share with your fellow coaches. For those of you that are new, my name is Ty. I'm joined by Aaron and Keith. We all work for FCA around different parts of Kansas. And man, our vision, our goal, our mission is to reach coaches and help you maximize the impact that you have with your athletes. And so thank you for joining us. And today I'm super excited. A good friend of ours, Coach Parr from Friends University, is here this morning. Coach, welcome. Thanks so much for being on this.
Thanks for having me.
I just realized this kind of before the call, but the first 3 weeks we had all kind of basketball influences. So we're kind of mixing it up this week. I don't know if you've had experience coaching basketball at all, but can you just explain your role there at Friends and maybe your past coaching experience for the audience that doesn't know you?
Yeah, welcome and glad to be able to talk with you guys today. My coaching role started in 2007 at Evangel University, where I graduated from. And then from there, I moved to Kansas City and spent 7 years at Park High School coaching cross country and track. And then moved on from there to Lexington, Kentucky, and coached there for 2 years, cross country and track at Lexington Catholic High School. And then had an opportunity, we moved to Wichita and had a chance to coach at May South High School here in Wichita, Kansas for a year until I was brought over to Friends to take over as the cross country and track coach in 2017. So that's where I'm still at right now.
That's awesome. What's your experience been with FCA? I know you have kind of some role there on campus. You've probably done some speaking. I think you have done some running, if I'm not mistaken. I think Kelly told me you've done some FCA-sponsored races in the past. Can you explain just maybe your role with FCA and experience with them?
Yeah, well, FCA has been a huge part of my life for a lot of years. It all started back my senior year in high school, and I decided I wanted to make some significant changes in my life, and I decided we're going to start an FCA. And so that's what I did. And from there, it's carried its weight as far as what I've gotten out of it personally. And I was adamant that no matter where I go, I want to make sure that there's an FCA launched in some facility, school, no matter where I'm at teaching, coaching. I want FCA I want it to be present. I want it to have its presence because it offers a uniqueness that a lot of other maybe clubs and schools can't. You're reaching Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and for us, we want to welcome all. And so I think that was the invitation we were given to people. So not only did I launch it in high school at the junior college I attended, and then when I was at Evangel University, we launched FCA. It's still going today there. And from there, I was adamant that in 2007, I made a vow to God that no matter where I go and teach, I'm going to have this club, this organization is going to have an impact in public schools. And so my first opportunity was that in 2007 at Park High School, and that wasn't without a fight. It was very resisted. It wasn't something that was welcomed there. And long story short, what we were seeing happening in our hallways at Park High School over the course of 7 years was absolutely transformational. We were averaging almost 275 kids on a Wednesday morning for FCA. Lives were being changed. Coaches were being influenced with coaches' huddles. It's all because one student said, I want to do this, and I'm all in. And that's all it took. We got that student excited about reaching the kids in their hallway and their sports teams. And we do what we do now at Friends University. I started putting student chaplains on sports teams at Park High School, just mentoring, encouraging, being there. You having a 17, 18-year-old come and help lead prayers and devotionals for sports teams, that takes a lot of boldness. And so that was really neat to see. When I got to Kentucky, I did the same thing. We launched an FCA at our Catholic high school there, and we launched the John Wooden's Pyramid of Success at a school I was working at called the Academy for Leadership at Mill Creek. And this was for the 75 roughest boys I could possibly find. And all year long, we walked them through the John Wooden's Pyramid of Success, inviting these boys to find different success and different opportunities, knowing that these kids as parents, most of them are incarcerated. They don't have families. And so to be a father, a mentor, to help these young boys see that was encouraging. Same thing, came to May South. We launched an FCA right away. I didn't waste any time on it. We got it going. And then when I got an opportunity to come to Friends, the first thing I told my AD, I said, we need an FCA on this campus. He didn't bat an eye about it. He said, let's go. Let's figure out how we get the resources together to make this happen. And you know what was encouraging is to already have some coaches that were bought into it. Yeah, we want this on our team. We want this on our campus. And so that was unique. And yeah, for 10 years, I've got to race for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes as a sponsored athlete. And so part of my role was to go to events, Ironmans, marathons, whatever I was racing, and set up a booth, tent, table, and just do outreach, do ministry. I mean, it was on my jersey. For everything that has breath, praises the Lord. If that doesn't spark a conversation, I don't know what does. And so people were always asking, tell me about your kit. And it's bright yellow. You couldn't miss it. But I didn't have a choice. I mean, I wore those colors, and those verses were being displayed. So the question was going to get asked. And that was the easy way to start a conversation. And so we got more people connected with this FCA Team Endurance. And it really had been a unique opportunity to share the gospel of Jesus in a way that I'm passionate about doing things as far as triathlons. And so I felt very fortunate to be able to do that.
That's so good. Tell my wife I'd give her a shout out. She's a runner as well, runs marathons and stuff. Try to get me into running a little bit. Are you still running with your team? And you do workouts with your cross country and track team?
Yeah, the old guy gets out there once in a while, and I still like to lay the hammer on the young pups once in a while, but not as much. I mainly just get on the bicycle and put the boombox out there and just give them some old school jams, and we just have fun doing that. But yeah, I try to still. Yeah.
That's awesome. One thing you mentioned, and then I'll kind of pass it off to Keith, but you talked about it was your mission to start FCA wherever you're at. And I think that's one of the things that I've noticed in my short time with FCA is that it's definitely student-led, right? It has to be student-led to be on campus, but it seems to go as passionate as the coach is about it. So what would your word or message be to some of the coaches around that are listening that might be a little bit hesitant on kind of jumping all in with FCA? And it's not about FCA, right? It's just a platform to get the gospel out, but they might be hesitant about spending some extra time to invest in some kids. What would your message be?
Man, my message would be this. Think about the amount of time we get to spend with young people every day, coaching, holding a whistle, a clipboard, writing stats down, doing game film. We get to use all of this time to do those things, which are very important. But there was something that was missing. If we're going to influence and impact these students in a mighty way, there's got to be a different way to do it. And for me, there was no other choice but to provide FCA into a campus and a facility, into a coach's heart, that coach, whenever they would now hold that clipboard or that whistle, they would coach differently. And I wanted to be able to let them know that, yeah, there's going to be some setbacks. There's going to be some difficulties. There's going to be pushback. But I think and again, it starts with a student. You get one coach and one student that says, I'm all in, it goes. But you pour into that coach and you pour into that student, and it becomes 5 and 10 and 15. But you do it in a way that's loving. I'm not out there to throw the gospel at you. I want to spend time with you, coming and being at your practices, praying with you in the mornings. Just how can I encourage you in the hallways as I walk past you and just say, hey, coach, hey, we're praying for you today, thinking about you. And I mean that. I want to make sure that you know that we're doing that for you. But I want to lead you in that way. And I think that the results speak for themselves. They really do. So.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. Keith, go ahead. You're muted. It's a problem with Zoom sometimes. Go ahead.
So excited, man. I forgot. Okay. So, Coach Parr, you obviously have extensive experience at high school, and now you're moving into college. Tell me, what do you think's the difference? Like, if you're obviously talking to coaches, high school coach, college coach. There's probably going to be some high school coaches that never do college. What's different between the high school and college, in your opinion, right now?
Well, I would say that the difference is, what I see at the high school level is really young kids and young coaches wanting to be motivated by something else. What is that? And for me, this was an opportunity to present this group to them and allow them to be excited about some new change. When you get to the college level, you get coaches that are, they're ingrained in what they do. They're set in their ways in a lot of ways. And it's hard to create change sooner. Not that change can't happen, But they've kind of already figured out their role, kind of how they want to be a coach, how they want to do things. And I would say at that high school level, you get a chance still to mold and make these young people quicker into who they could be when they step onto their college campuses. What are they doing now that's making a difference? And so you start young. You get those young cats as freshmen in high school, man, and you just pour into them and love on them. Watch what happens. They will begin to carry this through to their campuses. And so, again, and I think that the difference for us at Friends University is that, yeah, we get an opportunity to integrate our faith and learn. That's part of who we are. So there is an open invitation for every coach on our team and in our sports facilities to recognize that Christ is the authority on our campus and that he will be honored and recognized in all that we say and do. That's the easy part. But not every campus has that luxury to live out their faith that way with such boldness. So that's the big difference.
Yeah. So tell us about, because you've been pretty bold about when you're on your high school campuses, at least in Kansas City, and you had a battle about getting that huddle started. Tell us about, to maybe another huddle coach is watching, can you name a mistake or maybe something that you've done and you're like, no, I think I do that different in this process of starting huddles?
Oh, sure. I mean, as a young kid coming out of college, being eager and wanting to start something new, something fresh. I know what Christ has done in my life. I wanted to make sure that others knew about that as well. So walking into my first teaching job in 2007, yeah, I was pretty bold, bold enough that I didn't care whether I lost my job. That was probably too bold at that time, just getting a new job. So, but I felt like God was honoring and guiding me every step of the way, and knowing that in this life, you're going to have trouble. I think I would have approached it, I don't want to say slower, because I felt like I was taking the right steps, but I think what I would have sought out a little bit more was some more guidance from some others who had maybe started FCA, around the area. I didn't know much about what was going on in the Kansas City area. I mean, Russell Street, who was part of FCA for a long time, and Marcellus Casey, those were guys that were great influences to me in Kansas City. Russell Street, who's now in California now, he was huge. But I didn't really know him at that time before I started. First day into school, it wasn't that first week, and I was already jumping into the principal's office asking if we could start this club. And, I think I wish I'd have sought out some more guidance on what the structure looks like. I mean, I knew what it looked like from doing it in high school and college, kind of by what I was reading and seeing, but I didn't have that mentor that I could say, hey, how do you actually do this? Like, what is the right way of going about doing this? And so I would have done that. So.
Wow, that's good. That's great. That's great advice. So tell me about an embarrassing moment. Something on the light side.
So we launched our first Fields of Faith at Park Hill High School. It was 2010. We were about 2 or 3 years into FCA, and of course I think big and bold, and I had projected kind of what I thought, how many kids would be arriving, and so, man, I go all in for this thing. I mean, I go all in. We had a dodgeball tournament, 3-on-3 basketball tournament. We had contacted every coach in Kansas City high school. And so I was planning for 1,500 students. Okay, well, I reached out to Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A was our sponsor for this event. So thankful for them. And I remember her name. Her name was Denise, and she said, hey, Coach Parr, how many sandwiches do you think you're going to need? I said, I think we're going to need about 3,000 sandwiches. And so, of course, I was excited. It's my first Fields of Faith, brochures, flyers, you name it. Social media back then, which is on the typewriter. We were getting that stuff out. Okay. We ended up having 750 kids show up for our Fields of Faith. And I kept thinking, what are we going to do with all these sandwiches? Like, we had so many Chick-fil-A sandwiches. So the night was ending. It was about 8:30. So anybody that was remaining left, Denise said, hey, won't you I don't know what I'm going to do with these extra 1,000+ Chick-fil-A sandwiches. And so, I mean, kids were eating them by the dozens. I swear they were trying to do their part, but we weren't getting them down fast enough. So we take the extra Chick-fil-A's and we go stand out on Northwest Berry Road, I-29 highway. And we literally like line up the street on Berry Road and we just start handing out Chick-fil-A sandwiches to everybody. And it was cool because it was like, we had our FCA shirts on, and it said Fields of Faith, and FCA had our verse on it, Colossians 3, and people were asking questions, but we were handing them free Chick-fil-A, and it was a funny moment. Wow. It lasted like 2 hours. So we were out there for handing Chick-fil-A sandwiches out for what seemed forever. So nobody wanted Chick-fil-A after that.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you're going to mess up into something like that, that's the way to do it right there.
Hey, we did it. We were preaching the gospel with some Chick-fil-A sandwiches, so it was good.
That's awesome. Aaron, go ahead.
That's a great story, and I shoot for the moon too. I didn't quite go that far, but I applaud you for that. That's awesome. And going back to what you said when you're talking about coaches, you said influence and impact, and those are two certainly hot words when we're talking about coaches. One of the biggest things that we do within FCA, is engage, equip, and empower. Right. And so what are ways in which you're doing that? And I know, you've got Keith coming there on campus and so forth. What are things you're doing within your staff, you've already said what you've done with some of your players and athletes that are being student chaplains. What are some things you're doing within the athletic department there at Friends, with coaches, with whomever wants to be involved with that?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking that. First of all, I want to, we are so privileged now to have Keith on campus. It has been a night and day difference of now having another impact of somebody that loves Jesus and wants to show that to coaches in the most real and authentic way. That's it. Keith doesn't walk on campus with this arrogance and swagger. He just brings who he is to campus, and that's big. So that's been a big help. When I got to campus, at Friends in 2017, what I had seen over the years, Aaron, was an opportunity to influence people in such a different way. And I thought, okay, we get the opportunity, and I don't want coaches to forget this. We have an opportunity to integrate our faith and learn and bring Jesus at the very forefront of what we do. I would almost say it could be a non-negotiable. It's there. It's present. If we want it there, it's there. But how do we do that? Because we know that not every kid that attends that university is a Christ follower. You know what? And that's good. That's okay. That's been our role as coaches, to go make the difference, to do that. So when I got to campus in 2017, what I wanted to do is start meeting Dion and I, the football coach, came in at the same time, and some other coaches had come on at that same time. I thought, okay, got some fresh coaches in here, some new blood. How might we go about starting something? So I started meeting with Dion just once a week. We just started chatting for 10 or 15 minutes. The one thing that I've always enjoyed doing is whether it's from Kelly or it's from Kansas City, from Marcellus, I would always have boxes of the FCA Bibles. Any new coach that came on, I wanted to make sure to present them with an FCA Bible. That's what I want. Hey, just welcome. Here's a highlight verse I want to give you, something to maybe live by, some values. Some covenant words that maybe you could carry with your team. And so I did that with Dion. And then from there, we started doing that with some other coaches that wanted to get involved. What I started doing then is I sent an email to all of our coaches and say, hey, is there any time you think I can meet with you? Again, I'm not getting paid to do FCA. This isn't something I want to see coaches coach differently. Why? Because we have the opportunity to have athletes for these 4 years that we get to have the best impact on in their entire life. Is it just for winning? Well, maybe for some, but I'm telling you, when we win the hearts of these people, man, gosh, have we done the work that the Lord has asked us to do? And that's hard. So how do we equip these coaches? Well, I want to be the first to say, I'll stand in front of your team, give a 5-minute, I just want to pray with your team. I want to share just a quick snippet of a great story of God's word, but I want to put it in the context of how does that look for you today and how you live your life? And we create now an open invitation. It's non-threatening. It's not judgmental. Hey, I want to walk with you. Hey, I'm coaching here too, but I want to take 5-10 minutes out of my day on a Thursday. And we started doing it on Thursdays to say, hey, can I come to your team And could I just have 5 minutes of your practice time? Basketball was letting me, volleyball was letting me. I was doing soccer, football, of course, track and cross country. They don't have a choice. Okay. All right. So, that's the influence. But here's the other thing that I was doing. Every new kid that came to run for me, in their bag before they arrived on campus, at the very top of their bag was a brand new FCA Bible. If there was anything I was going to give them, I wanted to give them the thing that was the most important. Whether they read that, whether they open it one day in their life. Again, I explained I have a girl that had been practicing Hinduism, and that's her religion. That's what she practices. Yesterday, I had a tear come to my eyes. She got on. We're doing our Zoom meeting as a team, and she opens up her FCA Bible and shares Ecclesiastes 3 with the team. Dude, it got me. And I thought, is that the difference that we have as a coach to impact students that way? I told her, whether you ever read it or not, it's yours. You mean I don't have to give it back? No, it's yours. Give it to somebody else if you want, but don't throw it away. And so I don't know if any of that was helpful, but man, just simple ways to share God's word.
Yeah, I love that. And, we had talked before that Dion and I are good friends. I love that guy, so I'm very excited and very happy that you guys are on that same page and that he's able to share as well. And so you've already alluded to it a little bit with what you're saying. And so the question that I always like to hear from coaches is the legacy, whether you stay at Friends for another 20 years or you move on or whatever the situation is. And what is it what do you want your legacy to be? With again, I love the fact that you put that FCA Bible the first thing they see, which is great, which is part of that legacy, I think. But are there anything, like the way we kind of frame it up is, 5-10 years down the road and you've got the KCAC cross country championship team reunion or something like that. What are some of the things that you want those guys and gals to come back and say, this is what Coach Parr was all about. I'm living this, or, I've kind of passed it on to my family, my kids, whatever the situation. So legacy, what does that mean? And what do you want that to be for you?
Good question. Thanks for asking. And I've been asked that question a couple of times, and I'll go back to the coach that had such an influence on me, who I lived with while I was in middle school, Coach Bo, and he's 86 this day, and I call him every Friday and see him as much as I can see him. But, he said, listen, you may never win a state championship or a national title in your entire life, but here's what you have to do. You have to be there, you have to plan, and you have to care. If you do those three things all the time, in this kingdom in which we get to live in God's kingdom, you'll be the greatest coach ever. But you may never win a match in your life. But if your identity's not wrapped up in the wins that you're consuming, you're going to be wrapped up in the souls that you're winning. And that's what he's told me. And he reminds me of it till this day. Are you coaching with great purpose? Are you there? Do you care? And are you planning? When kids look back at the program that I've not established, but that they've established. Why? Because it's not about me. I'm excited to be maybe the leader, the captain, or the guy that gets to run the ship. But if I'm not intentionally pouring into these students, that so much so that they want to call a new recruit and say, listen, you got to come here. You want to be poured into. You want to be loved. We're still going to win. We're going to do things the right way. These are the covenant words that we're going to live by on this team. Coach is a guy that loves, cares, and will plan for you every day. He'll give you everything that he has all the time. But know this, he's going to show you who Jesus is. That's the legacy I want. And that's what I hope that I'm building. I think if you were to talk to the kids on our team today, I'm hoping that that's exactly what they'll say. Man, Coach loves Christ. It's displayed on his heart. Every day he has this overflow of who Jesus is in him. And it's poured out, and it's shaping lives of other people. Why? We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We don't know how many years we're going to coach. So what do we have with the platform that we've been given to make the most difference for God's kingdom, which we live in right now? So I want to be a participant and be the very best participant in living in this kingdom that God has given me the opportunity to do with coaching. That's why I love it. I get the chance to make an impact in lives that, man, it's just unbelievable. I'm spoiled by what I get to do. There is such great freedom in it. So that's what I would do.
That's so good, man. As you're talking this whole time, I'm thinking of 2 Corinthians 5, and when Paul talks about how we become a new creation in Christ, and God literally uses us as ambassadors, right, to spread the gospel. And I think so many people look at like what Aaron and Keith and I do as full-time ministry, and they're like, oh, they're the people in full-time ministry. It's like, no, like if you are a Christ follower, you are in ministry regardless of what your daily role is. And so it's just really encouraging. I know for me, I know for us to hear that, man, you're in full-time ministry at Friends, that it's not about the X's and O's, or for you, the running, the miles, all that. It's about winning souls for Christ. So, man, just thanks so much for your passion, for your heart. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I was really encouraged by it.
Mm.
Guys, you got anything else? Good.
Thanks, Coach, man. You're doing a great job. It's a pleasure working with you on campus. It's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's episode 4. Coaches, again, please go back and look at our previous episodes. Please share this one with all your coaching friends, and we'll see you again next